an administrative home of the only nonprofit immigration law center in the Bluegrass region, the Maxwell Strike Legal Clinic, and of course, one of their lawyers was one of our keynote speakers just 2 years ago, Marilyn Daniel. And this evening we have with us Rich Seckel. And Rich, we thank you for the work that you do, and we thank the Kentucky Equal Justice Center for all the gifts that they bring to the Commonwealth.
Thank you for noticing. It's nice to be invited to reflect on work over a period of time. The downside of that is the speech starts getting pretty long. I sat down last night at about 7 o'clock to start writing. At 8 o'clock, I thought I had more than 3 minutes here. There was a strange noise, and suddenly the lights went out, the computer went down. I thought this was a message. Even shorter. I thought it was a message from above, perhaps lightning, and I go outside. Work my way through the building down to the street, and I see there's smoke coming out of the ground. So there are people here much more qualified than me to interpret this event. I feel but I want to say it's very nice to be among people of faith and good works who are trying to bridge differences and do good work together. Part of my now long career in legal services has been to experience those partnerships and through incremental steps in Kentucky, like better outreach to rural children, through the passing the higher tobacco tax to discourage youth smoking, for instance. I think these things embolden us to take bigger steps. And now, today, I actually came from the office of the Kentucky Health Benefit Exchange. If you listen to NPR, you'll hear them talk about the troubles with the federal website. And then they say, but there's a few states that made their own website and they're doing pretty well. Almost a note of disbelief when they say, and Kentucky. But we are about 1,000 people a day have signed up for health care, many of them for Medicaid and others for subsidized private insurance plans. So it took a lot of incremental work to get there. I'm going to talk a little bit about legal services and give an example of advocacy. This is the shorter version of the speech. But as you know, in this country, we have a constitutionally protected right to an attorney when we're charged with a crime, and our liberty or even our life is at stake. For other legal matters, though, like a consumer scam or foreclosure or protective order for domestic violence, there is no corresponding right to counsel. Amazingly, who could have predicted that the last act signed by President Richard Nixon would have been the act that established the Legal Services Corporation? It's a sort of PBS of civil legal help, giving grants to nonprofit legal aid societies around the country. Our office here in Kentucky was formed by the early leaders of those programs. Here, some of you may know John Rosenberg or remember Dennis Briggs in Louisville. I was lucky enough to sort of come up under these wonderful leaders who encouraged us to be diligent advocates and not to be afraid to go into different forums, not just the courts, but go before the legislature, and to do it knowledgeably and persistently in a sort of cooperative tone that I think we've established over the years. So they formed our office. Part of our role was a glue function. For many years we've had task forces of attorneys and paralegals from around the state get together. We had information functions, a newsletter that I did for many years. But I think one of our enduring functions has been advocacy. I just want to give one example. And sometimes, when I'm thinking back over the past, I say, how did that one start? And one of the memories I had was a phone ring after 5. Someone named Julie Silas, and she says she's a lawyer with Consumers Union in New York. I said, why are you calling my subscription to Consumer Reports? It turns out that they had very accomplished policy advocates in Consumers Union. She said she wanted to find an expert on Kentucky's nonprofit conversion laws. At the beginning of many of our issues, I had no idea what she was talking about. But I learned. As the story unfolds from there, there have been advocates like Laurel True with AARP, Jane Childs with the Catholic Conference, Sheila Schuster, who's sort of the dean of mental health advocates in the state, officials like Ben Chandler, And ultimately, what happened was the Attorney General challenged Anthem Insurance Company in court because they had taken over a nonprofit, Kentucky Blue Cross Blue Shield, without making any compensation for the nonprofit assets. And the Consumers Union helped guide, I think, the court and a committee that they set up to set up the Foundation for a Healthy Kentucky. And today the assets have been preserved and good works are being funded through that foundation. I can come up with many other stories like that. I'm saying it partly because I want you to be encouraged that you too can be advocates, and I suspect many of you are. You don't have to know everything when you start. You'll find that you have wonderful partners as you go along. There have been many instances of us working with faith-based groups. You know, picture in the room I sat in with Father Pat and Kentucky Domestic Violence Association, ACLU, you know, kind of interesting mixture of groups, and we worked on the human trafficking bill that got passed in human trafficking in Kentucky. So these have been wonderful partnerships. It's been a great part of my work here. So encourage people in your communities that Kentucky's doing a good job with its healthcare reform. Hopefully we can keep that going and have even more than 1,000 people a day. We got 15,000 folks enrolled. There are 640,000 uninsured, so it's an unfinished job. Keep working.